Hello, I'm Dr. Jim Taylor, and welcome to Prime Sport Alert. This segment of Prime Sport Alert explores focus control. Developing focus control is essential if you're going to ensure that your focus style, as I described in my last segment of Prime Sport Alert, helps rather than hurts your sports performance. There are several steps in the focus control process. First, you have to identify your focus style and understand how it impacts your sport. Next, you must recognize internal and external cues that can help or hurt your training and competitive performances. Finally, you have to adjust your focus internally or externally as needed during practice and competitions. A major focusing problem I see with many athletes is that they focus on things over which they have no control. Athletes worry about their opponent, the weather, or the conditions, just to name a few things outside of their control. This focus has no value because they can't do anything about these things. This kind of focus hurts performance because it lowers confidence and causes doubt and anxiety. It also distracts you from what you need to focus on. The fact is, there's only one thing that you can control, and that's yourself, your psychology, and your body. If you focus on these things, you'll be more confident and relaxed, and you'll be better able to focus on what you need to do to perform your best. Perhaps the greatest obstacle to prime focus is having an outcome focus during a competition. Outcome focus involves focusing on the possible results of a competition: winning, losing, rankings, or who you might defeat or lose to. Let me say this very clearly. An outcome focus is the kiss of death in sports. Here's why. Many people believe that focusing on the outcome will increase the chance of that outcome occurring, but the opposite is actually true. Here's why. When does the outcome of competitive performance occur? Well, at the end, of course. And if you're focusing on the end of the performance, what are you not focusing on? Well, the process, obviously. Here's the irony. By focusing on the process rather than the outcome, you're more likely to perform better because you're paying attention to things that will actually help you perform better. And if you perform better, you're more likely to achieve the outcome you wanted in the first place. Also, why do you get nervous before a competition? Because you're afraid of the outcome. Most specifically, you're afraid of failure. So by focusing on the outcome, you're less likely to perform well and to achieve the outcome you wanted. In contrast, if you focus on the process, you're more likely to perform your best, the result of which is the outcome you wanted in the first place. Another mistake that many athletes make is they equate focusing with thinking. They believe if they're thinking about, for example, a penalty kick in soccer or a free throw in basketball, then they're also focusing on it and it will help their performances. However, there is a big difference between focusing and thinking. This distinction impacts not only your ability to concentrate on important parts of your sport, but it also affects your motivation, your confidence, your intensity, and your emotions. Focusing simply involves attending to internal and external cues. This process, it's impartial, objective, unemotional, and detached from judgment or evaluation. If you make a mistake on something on which you are focusing, you're able to accept it and not be overly disappointed by the failure. In focus mode, you're able to use the failure as information to correct the problem, to remain positive, and to focus better in the future. In contrast, thinking is connected to your ego investment in your sport. That is, how important your sport is to you. Thinking is judgmental and it's critical. If you make a mistake and perform poorly when you're in thinking mode, it hurts your confidence and causes negative emotions, such as frustration and anger. Thinking actually interferes with your ability to focus in a way that will help your performance. It will cause you to lose motivation and confidence. You'll feel anxious and it will cause your performances to deteriorate. If you do not have full command of your athletic performances, you must direct most of your focus to the technical, tactical, and mental aspects of your sport, with little attention aimed at your opponent. In other words, you have to perform entirely inside your head. This phenomenon occurs when athletes have not instilled key skills that would enable them to get out of their head. Typically, these athletes have not fully ingrained the technical, tactical, and mental aspects of their sport to the point that these skills are completely integrated and automatic. Much of their focus must be on making sure they do the things that will enable them to perform well. For example, a soccer player must focus on her dribbling, or a runner must pay attention to her pace. These athletes also lack the confidence in their ability because it is not fully developed. Without that trust in their performances, they must stay inside their head to ensure that they do the right things. In contrast, Your goal is to perform inside the mind of your opponent. This expression means that you're able to project yourself into your opponent's mind and can focus more on your opponent and how you can defeat them. Performing inside the mind of your opponent means that you have confidence in your ability. You trust that the technical, tactical, and mental skills and habits you've ingrained will emerge automatically, enable you to perform your best without focusing on them. Because of this, you can direct more of your attention to your opponent's performances. You can focus on their technique and their tactics and devise a plan that will enable you to overcome them. The ability to perform inside the mind of your opponent evolves out of your efforts to fully develop all aspects of your athletic capabilities. You must first develop the skills and habits that enable you to perform your best. During this process, you must also gain the confidence in your ability. This belief comes from practice and competitive experience. As you have success in performing in competition, you'll come to trust your ability and allow it to emerge automatically without any thinking or focus. When this happens, you're free to move out of your head and direct your entire focus onto what you need to do to defeat your opponent. With a foundation of skills and confidence, you can then intentionally widen and direct your focus toward your opponent. As you're performing, you can ask yourself questions about them. What are their strengths and weaknesses? What strategy can I use to neutralize the strengths and take advantage of their weaknesses? Simply by asking these questions, you're taking the first step to performing inside the mind of your opponent. At first, you'll have to do this rather deliberately. In time, though, this skill will become automatic, and every time you compete, you will naturally perform inside the mind of your opponent, and you'll be in a better position to achieve your goals. I have a rule you can follow that will help you identify what kinds of things you should focus on in your sport. I call it the 4 Ps. The first P is positive. You should focus on positive things that will help you perform your best and avoid negative things that will hurt it. The second P is process. As I explained above, you should focus on what you need to do to perform your best, such as tactics or technique, not on the outcome, which will only distract you. The third P is present. You should focus on what you need to do right now to perform your best at this very moment. You shouldn't focus on the past because you can't change it. You also shouldn't focus on the future because you can't change it directly either. In fact, the only way to control the future is to control the present. And the only way to control the present is to focus on it. The last P is progress. There's a tendency for many athletes to compare themselves with others, seeing others having better results and getting ahead of them in the rankings. How your opponents perform is outside of your control, though. What you should focus on is your improvement, your progress. Athletes develop at different rates. An athlete who is ahead of you now may not even be in your sight behind you in a year. What's important is that you see yourself progressing steadily toward your goals that you want to achieve. To conclude, when you take control of your focus, you ensure that your mind is where it should be. And when your mind is looking in the right direction, you can be sure that you're going to get where you want to go, namely achievement of your athletic goals. I'm Dr. Jim Taylor for Prime Sport Alert.